Kirk, there's so many different directions I want to go with you on this, but I think where I want to start, me being a defensive end and seeing how much money you guys get as quarterbacks, and then taking it back to your upbringing, right? You were born in Barrington, Illinois. Was there a time in your life where you thought you were going to make it to the NFL? And even that, did you think you were going to be the highest paid player? Of all the players, you're the highest paid guy. Did you ever think that would ever happen?
No, I didn't. It was just a dream to play professionally. And it was really, if I back it up one step, it was a dream to play at Michigan State in the Big Ten. My goal was just to be the quarterback at my high school on the varsity team. That was going to be competitive enough. So in that sense, I'm living the dream, still playing pro football, certainly well compensated. And, now I want to play as long as I can and go get a Super Bowl. And so that's really what I'm chasing.
I mean, has it really hit you yet that you're in a position that you're in?
Well, I was fortunate, and not all pro players have this journey, but I was fortunate to being a fourth-round pick. Mm-hmm. I was well compensated, making about $500,000 a year as a rookie, which is a great income for a 24-year-old. But at the same time, I wasn't thrown, 8 figures right away. And so I had a chance to kind of grow with my career. And then my 5th year was when financially, I was being paid a larger sum. And at that point, I had already spent 4 years of understanding, income taxes, saving, spending, investing, getting the right people around you, building a great team. And then from there, just taking the next steps.
So the saying goes, to whom much is given, much is asked. You are the face of the franchise. And with that comes responsibilities. How do you approach your day-to-day life and knowing that everything you say is going to be scrutinized, everything you do will be scrutinized? How do you take that responsibility?
Well, it is a responsibility. You want to steward it well. You want to manage it well. Winning football games is such a big part of it. I think when you win games, people are going to give you a little more grace and want to hear what you have to say. You're very aware as a quarterback how you carry yourself kind of sets the standard a little bit within your organization and for your fan base. And that's something that I take seriously and changes. It doesn't change the way I conduct my behavior, but certainly something I'm aware of.
People know who Kirk Cousins is. They know that your faith plays a major role in the way you operate in your day-to-day life and how you treat your friends, your family, your teammates, and just yourself. How has your faith guided your journey from your humble beginnings to now being, a face of a franchise?
Yeah, it's just kind of been taking the next step, one step at a time. And I remember when I broke my ankle my junior year of high school, and I thought I wouldn't be able to play college football because I wouldn't get recruited if I couldn't play my junior season. I remember saying, I'm going to trust the Lord, trust his plan for my life. We'll see if that plan involves football or not. But I remember thinking at the time, if football does end up working out, God will have had to be in it and will have had to be directing me through it. And certainly it's worked out. So I look back through my decision to go to Michigan State, the path that he led me on to get there, the path that he led me on in East Lansing as a player that then led me to be able to get to the pros. And whether it's playing in Washington or Minnesota, the Lord has led me every step of the way, and I've really put my trust in him. And it's been fun to see, his plan for my life and for our family unfold. So there's still more left up ahead of the adventure to see, but football for me has certainly been a faith journey.
Yeah, that's good. I actually share with you in that aspect, being an undrafted free agent. I tore my ACL my senior year in college, and I look at your career, it feels like you almost have to prove yourself every single game. But you're able to do that. So thank you for being that good example with that. As we look at football players and the ecosystem of people you have, we talk about that a lot here at UBS, the ecosystem of people we have around us. How have you built your support system and the people around you? And are there any lessons that you've learned over your time in the league of having the wrong people maybe around, or has it always been just a upward momentum for you and the people around you?
I know it's been a learning process. When I was in college, your team really becomes your family, your roommate, your buddies, just people who are there to help and be a great friend. When you move to the pros, those relationships can become professional relationships where you're going to pay people for their help in your life. And so, when we started to grow our income and there was some margin there, I realized I was spending a lot of time on tasks that were really not the best use of my time. I needed to be spending time on football, spending time with my family, and things that were pulling me away from those two things were, really need to be delegated. And so at that point, this was probably 5 or 6 years ago, I began the conversation of hiring really someone who could help with family services and just kind of running interference for me to kind of insulate me and help me focus on football and keep the main thing. And so then life got more complex, and I realized that while that person was doing a great job, there was still another role that needed to be brought in to handle some of the higher level investing and some of the challenges in the financial world. On the football side, just as importantly, taking care of my body, the people I have when it comes to my training, my nutrition, my sleep, recovery. There's so many pieces to me staying healthy on the field and hopefully playing well into my 30s and maybe even to 40. That is also a team of people that you pay and trust to really help keep your body where it needs to be to perform at a high level.
Is there an obligation for the league to do a little bit better, or does it fall on the players to do their homework, especially some that may not even have a financial background? Like, how do we have that balance?
Well, what I don't like is box checking. And at times I feel that employers will put on a seminar to check the box, to be able to say, we showed them, we taught them, it's not our fault if they lose their money. I think there needs to be opportunities, programs, to let people be educated. There's far too much that I, as a player, still had to navigate and figure out on my own through trial and error. I just don't know that it needed to be that way. I would love to have had people kind of have a system in place that says, hey, once you reach this level of net worth or this level of income, you should look at doing these 3 things. And there just wasn't a system in place. But, I do think that, in my case, it worked out. I've got the right people in place, didn't have any major hiccups along the way. But as you mentioned, there are many stories that don't have a happy ending. And maybe when I'm done playing, would love to get the opportunity to help coach some guys and get involved, to be able to say, hey, I've been there, I've learned is the right way to go, and come follow me.
You had a stable environment at home. Finances, were they discussed with you? Or is it something you still had to learn on your own, make your own mistakes? Like, how did that work out?
I have pretty good perspective, on what it looks like to spend, to save, to give. I remember when I got my first check, after taxes, I wasn't going to be able to go, be set for life, but it was a great head start. And I remember having no understanding of what you do with $200,000. And so I called my dad and I said, Dad, after taxes, I've got $200,000 here. What do I do with that? Do I just put it in the bank, or what do you do? And my dad said, Kirk, I don't know. I never had $200,000 lying around. And so that was where, we both had to go reach out to some people in my community who knew, what that looks like. And we were able to get those mentors in place, but I had to go seek them out. And I think that would be the first coaching point I would give to anybody looking for advice is, don't just sit there and expect people to come to you. Be proactive and go find people you respect who have gone where you want to go, and ask to go to breakfast with them and ask questions and learn from them, because I do think people are willing and able to share, but you've got to go find them. No,
and I agree with you. And continuing on that front of family, we talk a lot about legacy here at UBS, and you have this discussion with your dad, and you have kids and a beautiful wife. What are you trying to create for your family? What's your legacy? What do you want that to look like?
That's a great question. And I guess as a football player, I want my teammates to be able to say many, many years from now that Kirk was the real deal. He not only talked the talk, but he walked the walk. He was a great teammate. I think that really takes precedent over just being a great player, actually being a great person and a great teammate. Certainly want my wife to say that I was a husband who was caring and selfless and loving, and my kids much the same way, that, Dad gave of his time and energy, even when he didn't have much of it, to help us grow and be the best that we could be. And I want to steward well financially what I've been given, what we've been given to manage, so that my boys can have more opportunities up ahead, and that I want to teach them, what it looks like to steward wealth, so that they can, take what we pass on and grow it from there. And I do think that wealth is a tool, but I also think it's a test. It's a test to see how we manage it. And so we want to pass that test, and we want to be able to use it as a great tool to make a difference in so many ways.
Yeah, that's great. It's good to have. I know you have these kids, and I know your kids know you're famous. How do you balance that aspect too of having all this wealth, right? How do you balance knowing that, I'm dad, but I got all this money, I'm famous, and still instill some of the humble beginnings that you had when you came up?
Well, that's something that my wife and I are talking about right now. Our boys are 3.5 and 2, and so we're still pretty early in the process. But that conversation is going to happen. I think what's important is understanding that just because dad has a different job, that doesn't make dad more important. It doesn't make him special. It doesn't make him entitled, and certainly doesn't make my kids entitled. And so you want to remind them that any privilege that comes with being a professional athlete or that comes with being a part of our family, that doesn't lead to entitlement. That leads to greater responsibility. The more you're given, the more you have to answer for, and the more you need to be a great steward. And so much is required of me, of us, of our family. I want my boys to understand that and carry that responsibility in a healthy way.
Yeah, I love it. Great answer to that. And you talk about your wife too. So let's talk about you and your wife and your passion for some of the stuff you do off the field. Do you mind telling me like some of the things you're working on and things that you're passionate about?
Yeah, my wife and I started our foundation a few years ago when we established our family office. We called it the Julie and Kirk Cousins Foundation. And, we have several places we love to give. A lot of our giving is done regionally based on where we grew up, where we play right now in Minnesota. Some of the passions or endeavors that our family members take on in terms of organizations they have a passion for. One of the major organizations we give to is International Justice Mission. They do work all over the world, helping the poor and the oppressed and fighting, systemic issues of injustice against the poor that really prevent people in poverty from ever being able to climb out of their situation. And so we really want to get at the heart of issues so that people can rise up out of poverty and make a great life for themselves. And so IJM does a great job with that. A lot of faith-based giving for us. We want to see the gospel advance throughout the world. And then, organizations that are very common and people are familiar with, like the Boys and Girls Club that they have in my hometown, they have across the Twin Cities in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So, we like to do a lot of different giving, but it's a joy to be able to get involved and provide capital to people who really could use it and will make great use of it.
That's a good point you bring up about providing joy. And do you have any sense of like, I'm getting paid all this money and I don't understand why, and this is part of my guilt of giving, or is it something else that just the way you've always been raised and your mom and dad, or what was that?
Well, I believe I'm going to give an account someday for what I did with what I've been given. And just that awareness that day is coming causes me to have a responsibility with any amount of capital that comes my way. Because I think we're all going to give an account for what we've been given. So, in my case, you certainly are aware of that. Regardless, I just think that I believe something that Jesus said that few people actually believe, but he said it's more blessed to give than to receive. I want to live like I actually believe that to be true, not just that it sounds nice to say. I want to put my money where my mouth is and actually live in such a way where I believe it's more blessed to give than to receive, and be somewhat extravagant in the way we give and in our generosity and in the way our foundation gives. So that's something we're looking to do and really looking to do when we're done playing football, to spend a lot of time and energy in philanthropy and traveling to see the places where we give and really be able to come face to face with the needs and hope to continue to make a major difference long after we're done playing football.
How do you make sure that you're doing the right things and making sure that you and your wife are aligning yourself with the right people?
It's a great question, Wally. We want to have a filter that we can process any requests through. So whether it's our foundation to say, these are kind of the places we want to target, the reasons we would give. If you fit that framework, then it's a lot easier to have a conversation. You do have to be able or willing to say no from time to time. And much the same on the investment side, you have to have a strategy in place of what you want to prioritize and how you go about investing and see how different opportunities that come across your desk fit your framework.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, I appreciate your time. I know you talked a little bit about life after football. It's a hard pill to swallow even to think about it. What else do you think is on the horizon for Kirk Cousins?
It's a great question. It's one I'm asking myself and my wife quite a bit. Right. And you start thinking about, well, if I don't play, what else is out there? I really don't know. I don't have a great answer. That next chapter is on the horizon, but I don't know what it's going to be. Certainly think we'll be involved philanthropically for as long as we live. Like, I have a passion for business and investing. Doesn't mean I'm going to be good at it, but I do have a passion for it. And so I do think that when I'm done playing, there might be a desire to go get an MBA or go to law school or do some reading to really learn, what it would take to be a great investor and run a great family office. And I'm kind of excited to take on that challenge whenever it comes.
Kirk, thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it, Wally. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, go Vikings, but don't tell my Bears fans that I just said that.
I won't.